important for students in terms of understanding the property industry, in terms of enhancing their careers. And there's a whole series of reasons why this is the case. But certainly this year with COVID, it's been a totally different game. And it's presented a whole series of challenges. I mean, my concerns with the unit that I ran is, how am I going to deliver this unit? Are the students going to be motivated to do this subject? Is industry going to want to be involved, particularly when they were busy keeping their own companies afloat? Were the results going to be comparable with previous years? Were the students going to be happy with what they got out of the subject? And were the reports going to be of a high standard? So all of those really serious challenges. So what I'd like to share with you is the changes I had to make this year to accommodate COVID, how the students responded to those changes, and what the outcomes were. The particular subject that I'll talk about is a third year engagement unit. I run this there's over 100 students in the course, and we ran this right in the middle of COVID. It was done in the second half of this year. There's two assessment elements. I particularly want to talk about the element that involves this industry report, which is worth 70%. So all of the assessment in this subject is going to be report-based, but in particular, I'll share with you the results for this industry report that they did for me. Just in terms of background to the subject, I give them all of the necessary materials. There's about 35 pages of what my expectations are in terms of the report requirements.
Sorry, Graham, I think somebody just had a question for you there.
Can we save up the question?
No, I just wanted to ask you to press the F5 button, so to switch to presentation mode.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, this guy here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I had. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I provide them with the necessary.
It's still not on there. It's still not on presentation mode.
Press it.
It's which.
How many screens do you have? Do you have 2 screens?
I have 2 screens. So
we have seen the wrong screen, probably.
I'm seeing it clearly on the main screen.
Okay.
Anyway, which is the one
that's okay, I think.
Just keep going, Graham. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
So in terms of the materials, I give them all of the background material in terms of the expectations for the subject, but I also give them about 150 pages of best practice from previous reports, and it gives them a sense of what my expectations are going to be. I can normally tell them what grade I'd expect them to get simply by them telling me the titles, because I have to approve their title. And there's been many instances where I've been able to say to the students, if you do this properly, you're looking at a high distinction. So that's really empowering the students in terms of the subject. Although the semester runs for 13 weeks, I actually only do this for 2 weeks. I set up the broad structure and the expectations, and then I say, you can go out there and you can do it now. And they use the remaining time in terms of actually being out there rather than listening to me. I keep in contact with them regularly. If they want to talk to me, they can talk to me. But to be fair, most of the students don't. Most of the students know what they want to do, and they simply get out there and do it. There was a case where a couple of years where I've offered to run extra classes. Typically, out of the 100 students in the class, only 2 will turn up. And all of them say, we've got this under control. We know what we want to do. We want time to do it. We just want to be out there doing it. So I send them regular emails. Some people call it nagging, but regular communication emails where I explain to them where I think they should be in terms of the report. So each week there's just a short email to them, just supporting them, encouraging them, saying where they should be in terms of their report, just to keep them focused. They can pick any area of property that they want. It has to be around a specific issue. Typically, they'll pick a topic which is where they see their career going. So it might be something in terms of property funds management. It might be about non-listed funds, but it really gives them a chance to do a deep dive, a lot deeper than perhaps they've covered in other subjects. Importantly, they can pick their own topic. It's something that they own. I think this is a really critical factor in why it's been successful, that they own this 100%, and then they've got 13 weeks to do the report. The report, I've got to stress, it's not a research report. It's an industry applied report. I'm more interested in them learning about industry, giving me not academic references, but references from JLL or CBRE or other industry reports. So they have to talk about the industry context. They have to do a case study. They do interviews with senior people in the industry. They need to build in quotes from those interviews, and they have to make recommendations. Where is this sector going over the next 5 years, the next 10 years? I showed them previous student reports. Well, this is when I can sort of have them in the classroom. And those previous reports would be the ones from the previous year where they're benchmarks. So typically what I'd do is I'd hand out, in each class, I'd hand out 20 of the reports from the previous year that got the top grades. And the interesting thing is, do I get those reports back? Well, what I do at the end of the class is I say to them, I've handed out 20 reports. I need 20 reports back. No one leaves the room until I've got 20 reports. I've run this subject for many years. I've never lost one report. So again, the students are quite responsible. I've organised industry prizes. There's about $8,000 from the major players in the industry, and anything up to $1,000 is a prize that the students will get if they do well. Some of them will hand in a late report. Some of them will just not. It's just too busy. That's okay. I can actually give them another 4 months to get this done. And the constraining factor there is they have to be able to meet the requirements for graduation, which is the end of February. So some of them will hand it in a month, 2, 3 months later. That's okay. They'll probably only get a pass 50%, but I'd never fail anyone simply by handing them in late. Importantly, it's seen as closure for the property degree. Many of the students will actually not want to hand the assignment into the assignment box. They actually want to hand the assignment to me, because for them, it represents closure. It's a rite of passage. It's a culmination of 3 years hard work. So to physically hand the report to me, they find quite empowering. Let me, before I talk about this year's results, just give you a benchmark against previous years. High level of student satisfaction, well above the school average and the university average as well. Good average mark. More than 50% of the students will get more than a pass. They'll get a credit, they'll get a distinction, they'll get a high distinction, because they really put incredible effort into what they do. However, this year, quite different.
Brian, we don't see the slides. You are passing through the slides. The slides are in the fifth slide, and you are not passing through the slides.
Yeah,
the presentations. In the presentation, we still are stuck on the
slides
5.
on the screen. The one there now saying 2020 delivery strategies.
No, we see the subject feature. Is the number 5.
There must be on another screen.
Yeah, it's in another screen. This is what I say, that you can change your screen in the top left. The top left is the possibility to share the screen you are seeing. Change the screen to share. The top left.
Should I pull the plug on the second screen?
Yeah. No, it's difficult. No, not physically. You can do it.
Is that doing it now?
No.
Yes,
we have it.
Sorry,
Yay.
it's a second screen. Okay, sorry for that. Okay, so first of all, let's look at the strategies I had to use to accommodate COVID. Obviously, all of us had to do online. Let's not worry about that. I was concerned about the topics they were going to select. I was concerned that a lot of the students were going to pick the impact of COVID-19 on real estate. I was dreading having to read 100 reports. And I actually said to them, don't do that. Certainly embed COVID, but don't make it the focus for the report. The first big change I had to make was that we normally do interviews with senior players in the industry. It was too risky to do that this year. So what I said was this year, there won't be any interviews. The student response to that is, but we want to do interviews. They're important. We think we can do them in a safe way. We're working with companies. So the compromise was interviews were not required. However, if they felt they could do them and do them in a safe way, then they'd get extra marks for doing that. And over 50% of students, even though they weren't required to do interviews, actually went out there and did the interviews. The quotes in the report, normally the quotes are from the interviews, but this year I let them include quotes, important quotes that came out of reports that they might have read. Obviously, I couldn't circulate full copies of previous reports. So what I did was I took sample pages. I gave them about 150 pages of best practice from last year's reports. So that was helpful for them. I hate marking online. I'd much rather sit down and read the hard copy. I didn't have any choice. Thankfully, the industry reports, the JLLs, the CBREs, they keep doing amazing reports to help the students. The other really important thing was that the industry still continued to do interviews with the students, even though it was an incredibly stressful environment for them. They did interviews, and a number of students who have scholarships, it's a requirement of the scholarship that they interview the CEO of the company for this subject. And I thought some of the CEOs might just be too busy. They mightn't want to do it. Every one of them insisted on, yes, I'll do the interviews. And these were big companies like Stockland and GPT, ASX 50 companies. So that was strong support. So, and industry really supported these interviews that they were wanting to do. And the reports were just amazing. This was one of the, I'm giving you the top ones. This was the guy from Stockland who did work on sustainability. Tara from GPT looking at sustainability. Olivia from ESR on logistics property. Eliza from, she's with Stockland. And these were some of the external students. Keely, she did the impact of the light rail. And Krista on agriculture, investing in agricultural property. And one of the guys looked at how his suburb changed over recent years. So again, they picked really exciting, really interesting topics. So how did they go? Average mark was 69%. In previous years, the average mark is 68 to 70%. So this year, no reduction in performance. In fact, there were probably more high distinctions, marginally more high distinctions this year than in previous years. Again, more than 50% got above a pass. Last year, this was 54%. Last year, it was 53%. So again, I'm not seeing any difference in performance. And you're probably saying, yes, but you probably subconsciously added in extra because of the impact of COVID. And I was very aware of that in terms of how I was looking at the students. So I don't believe that I did that. My normal objective self and fair self. Okay, so overall they did very well. I particularly looked at those that got the high distinctions, and there were 7 that got in the group that got high distinctions. The women in the group, they got 70% of the high distinctions. Now, they only make up 35% of the class. So they well and truly performed as they do in most years. The girls outperformed the guys. The scholarship holders, again, they made up more than 50% of the students that got the high distinctions. And you'd expect that because they're embedded in the company, they've got quality information, quality case studies, quality people to interview. And similarly, we run a correspondence version or an external version of the course. They always do well as well. So overall, the report quality was very high and the level of student satisfaction was high. I got my results for the student satisfaction, 4.3 out of 5. What was it last year? 4.3 out of 5. So again, I'm not seeing any change in performance because of COVID. So if we look at 2019 versus 20, comparable performance, what about those students that handed the report in late? About 24% of students this year handed the report in late. Last year, about 20%. So again, it's not really any different to what we saw previously. Some of them just need extra time, and I'm happy to give them extra time. About 9% of the students withdrew from the subject. And again, typically that's a second year. We don't have prerequisites. So they were second years that were really underprepared for the subject, and they realised too late. So again, the comparable figure last year, well, this year was 9%, last year was 9% as well. So again, it didn't matter what metric I looked at, the performance this year was comparable with that of previous years. And similarly, when I broke down the specific groups in terms of their overall performance, it was comparable. So what are the lessons? First of all, again, it really does highlight the importance of an industry-based subject. They just learned so much from doing the subject. The property industry was incredibly supportive. They were very busy. They were trying to keep their companies afloat, but they still found time amongst the senior executives to do interviews with the students. The students acquired a high level of property knowledge, deep level of understanding, great reports. I guess the only thing I have concerns about is these were great students who were doing great work. Are they going to have the career opportunities next year? It's going to be a long, slow recovery. Is industry going to be able to, and I really hope they can, want to invest in their futures and employ what is a really good group of students? And on reflection, do I want 2021 to be the same as 2020 with COVID? Please, no. Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much, Graham. That was really useful and interesting, and those reports look incredible. Have we got any questions from anybody?
I wonder why the depth of learning and understanding is less in compared with all the others that you have put in your evaluation.
No, I thought their depth of learning and understanding was comparable to previous years. You can just get a sense when you read the reports that this isn't something that they just write down. It's something that they own. And a lot of that is really due to the strong support that they get from the property industry. The other thing I should mention is we talk about staff surviving COVID. I think we really should acknowledge the students surviving COVID. They've shown a real tenacity. This was never part of the deal when they enrolled in the course 3 years ago. And for them to have to do a year of online learning is really, for me, it's incredibly sad that they had to do this. And I think they showed a real tenacity of character. So again, I thought their depth of understanding and learning was at least comparable to previous years.
Thank you. We've got room for probably one more question only. Anybody would like to ask another question?
A quick one for Graham, if you don't mind, Deborah.
Yeah, go for it.
Graham, just curious, how much guidance do you, I'm echoing the deliverables look great. How much guidance do you give students on kind of the organization and structure of the deliverable as opposed to just the content?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time talking to them about the individual sections, and I really show them good examples, the benchmarks from previous years that I think where people have done a good job. So all of the sections of the report, they get a lot of detail on what I think is good. And I say, these were the benchmarks from last year. I want you to beat the benchmarks. So they do get a lot of examples of how to integrate quotes into the reports, how to do the table of contents. I mean, I don't want transcripts. I want 1 or 2 line quotes in the report that highlight the specific issues and strong recommendations. So yes, they do get a lot of guidance, and they do get a lot of examples, and I think it pays off. This is just, for me, I've run this subject for many years, and it's just an absolute pleasure to run every year. It's a highlight of the year for me.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Well, we need to stop now, but I'm sure we've got the comparisons and the outcomes are great and very insightful. Many thanks for Graham. That's from Annette. And I think we all feel the same, Graham. Thank you. We've now got